Mm. So about 2 months ago, Michael Brown was shot. I'll just try that again. I feel like I'm to the So about 2 months ago, Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager, was shot by a police officer while his hands are up. So 2 months ago, as you may know, So 2 months ago, Michael Brown was shot. He was an unarmed black teenager, and as you may know, there was a national outcry about police brutality. Locally in Ferguson, where he was shot, in the St. Louis area, hundreds of people responded by non-violently protesting. Just remember what I said after that. Okay. 2 months ago, Michael Brown was shot. He was an unarmed teenager with his hands in the air, and him and I were asked to come and organizers on the ground and we just returned from these new organizers who emerged in Ferguson, Missouri.
Over those 3 weeks, Matthew and I were on the ground and in the streets every day with these new organizers while they were canvassing in their neighborhoods, talking with their community members, facilitating their first activist meetings, and doing one-on-one conversations for the first time, and also supporting them through processing the very real trauma that many of them were still experiencing in the aftermath of Mike's murder.
So now they need your help, and we need your help. While we were there, we were able to give them a ride from those action planning meetings to city council hearings, from home to outreach spots where they were talking with folks on the street, and they need a car. They need a car to be able to get around now.
As many of you all might know, residents and organizers in Ferguson are planning a national mobilization in the second week of October, what they're calling Ferguson October. And while they're organizing and continuing to mobilize in their communities, we really want to make sure that they have the critical tools that they need to continue to build resistance in their communities. And so if you've been looking for a way to help out from afar, this is the way that you can help out. We really need you. They really need you. Let's get the Ferguson Freedom Fighters a car. Hope you can donate today, and thanks so much for your support.
Nice. That sounds really simple. Can we just record it one more time? So
Yeah.
I disconnected at some point. I missed most of what you said the first time.
Yeah. There was a little bit of, like, you also in the first chunk, you cut out a little bit, but I caught you, like, right at the end, and you're like...
Okay, so I disappeared while I was talking too?
Just your voice, and the video kind of froze for a little bit, but we'll see.
Okay. All right, let's take again. 2 months ago, Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager, was shot dead by a police officer. As you may know, there was a national outcry about police brutality, protests in cities all over the country, and in Ferguson, Missouri, in the surrounding St. Louis area where Michael was shot, hundreds of people showed up to non-violently protest and resist police brutality. Kim and I were asked to come and support these new organizers who emerged and just returned from 3 weeks supporting folks on the ground.
While we were there with folks, we were on the ground and in the streets literally almost every single day. We were supporting a lot of these new organizers in canvassing their neighborhoods, talking with other community members. Some of them were facilitating their first activist meetings and conducting one-on-one meetings with folks that they were trying to mobilize. And we were also there in the capacity to support them process through some of the very real trauma that many of them were experiencing in the aftermath of Mike's death.
And now they need your help, and we need your help. When we were there, we were able to drive them around, and they now need a car. They need a car to get from city council hearings, to be able to get to where they're recruiting folks on the street. They need to get from the action that they're planning it to a press conference, even to back home. And they've asked us to help mobilize folks across the country to help support them now.
As many of you all may have heard, the residents and organizers in Ferguson are planning for a national mobilization in the second weekend of October, what they're calling Ferguson October. And we really want to make sure that they have the critical tools that they need to be able to continue to build resistance in their communities. And so if you've been looking for a way to support the work that's been happening in Ferguson, please donate to this fund to get the Ferguson Freedom Fighters a car. We really need you, they really need you to donate today in order to ensure justice for Mike and his family and to help ensure justice for us all. So we hope that you are able to give today, and if you're not, please let your friends and family members and everyone in your community know about this effort to get this car as well. And thank you for donating.
Nice. All right, I'm thinking one last take. And then we get to choose from 3.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh my God. Which is really easy to do on YouTube. We can just like sort of look at 3 and see which one. I just need to plug in my computer. It might die. Hold on a sec. And so let's see, my phone has battery. Cool. And that's why my phone flicked out last time. It said you're running low. I'm going to plug in the phone so it doesn't happen again. Okay. Everything is plugged in. So I'm going to leave this here. Where did it go? Oh. Flip it out. All right. So I keep saying 3 months ago because it feels like forever.
It's getting close to 3 months ago.
Yeah, August, September. Oh, 2. Getting close to 2. August 9th. It's been less than 2 months.
That's really strange.
It is. It feels like close to 3 months. So 2 months ago, Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager, was shot dead by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, while Michael's hands were up in the air in surrender. As you may know, there was a national outcry about police brutality with protests across the country and conversations emerging. While in Ferguson, where he was shot, hundreds of people from across the St. Louis area showed up to nonviolently protest. Kim and I were asked to support folks on the ground for a longer period of time, and we just returned from 3 weeks with the Ferguson Freedom Fighters.
While we were in Ferguson for 3 weeks, literally on the ground and in the streets every day, almost every day, with these newer organizers, supporting them as they were canvassing in their neighborhoods and talking to other folks in their community, some of them facilitating their first activist meetings. and having one-on-one conversations with folks. We were also helping them process through some of the very real trauma that many of them experienced in the aftermath of Mike's murder.
And so now they need your help, and we need your help. While we were there, let's try that again. I know when I stop that I stop. Sorry.
It's fine.
Too perfectionistic. So 2 months ago, Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager, was shot by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. In the aftermath, that's your phrase. So 2 months ago, Michael Brown was shot in Ferguson, Missouri. He was an unarmed black teenager shot by a police officer, and it sparked national protests and discussion about police brutality. In Ferguson, hundreds of people from across the St. Louis area showed up to nonviolently protest and demand justice for Mike Brown. In the midst of that, Kim and I were asked to come and support these new organizers on the ground.
So we just came back from 3 weeks of being in Ferguson, and while we were there, we were quite literally on the ground and in the streets almost every single day with these new organizers, supporting them as they were facilitating their first activist meetings and canvassing in their neighborhoods and talking to their community members to really find out what getting justice for Mike and getting justice for our communities really meant. And we were also helping them, supporting them through processing the very real trauma that many of them were experiencing in the aftermath of Mike's murder.
And so now the Ferguson freedom fighters need your help. They need to be able to get from action planning meetings to actions. They need to be able to get from city council hearings to talking with folks on the street. They need a car. While Kim and I were there, we were able to drive them around from spot to spot, and now they've asked for help in getting a car.
As many of you all may know, organizers and residents in Ferguson are mobilizing towards a national weekend of action in mid-October. They're calling it Ferguson October. And while that's happening, we really want to make sure that they have the critical tools that they need in order to continue to build resistance in their communities, to get justice for Mike and his family, and ultimately justice for all of us. And so if you've been looking for a way to support the work that's been happening in Ferguson, please donate today to the fund to get a car for the Freedom Ferguson Fighters. We really need you, and they really need you to support them in this way today. And so we hope that you're able to donate. And let your friends and family know and other people in your community know to donate as well. Thank you so much for your support.
One last time. I was gonna say, because, well, I mean, I know I added more words this time, and so I think cutting some words would be helpful for both of us.
Yeah.
And you did say at the end, the Freedom Ferguson Fighters.
Oh, really?
It's the only time you've said that. You always are spot on. And so much more relaxed than I am. So 2 months ago, Michael Brown was murdered by a police officer. He was an unarmed black teenager, and it sparked national dialogue and protest about police brutality. In Ferguson and St. Louis, hundreds of people showed up to nonviolently protest the police response with tanks and guns. In the midst of that, Kim and I were asked to support folks for a longer period of time. So we just got back from 3 weeks supporting the new organizers who have emerged in Ferguson, the Ferguson Freedom Fighters.
While we were on the ground in Ferguson with these new organizers, we were literally in the streets with them almost every single day, supporting them as they were canvassing in their neighborhoods, talking with their community members about what getting justice for Mike and his family really looked like, and also supporting them as they were facilitating some of their first activist meetings and doing one-on-one conversations with folks. And also helping them process through some of the very real trauma that many of them were experiencing in the aftermath of Mike's murder.
So now they need your help. The Ferguson freedom fighters need your help to be able to get from city council hearings to action planning meetings, to be able to get from talking with folks on the street to being able to organize and do the everyday work of justice for Mike Brown and ending the system that really allowed Mike to be murdered by this police officer.
And
they need a car.
And as many of you all may know,
no, so close.
That was really good.
It was great. You were great.
Jumped into suit. No, you're great.
I was great that time. Yes.
Okay.
I forgot to say car.
Yeah. Yeah. I jumped in too soon. Okay.
Oh, you jumped in when I paused.
Last time. We got this. Okay. Straight.
2 months ago, Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager, was shot by a police officer. As you may know, this sparked national dialogue and protest about police brutality. And in Ferguson, where Mike was shot, hundreds of people from the surrounding St. Louis area showed up to nonviolently protest and resist police brutality. In the midst of that, Kim and I were asked to support these new organizers on the ground for 3 weeks, and we just returned from that journey working with folks on the ground.
While we were in Ferguson, we were literally in the streets, on the ground, almost every day with these new organizers, the Ferguson Freedom Fighters. And we were supporting them while they were canvassing in their neighborhoods and getting out the word within their communities to find out what getting justice for Mike and his family really looked like. We were also helping them to process through some of the very real trauma that many of them were experiencing in the aftermath of Mike's murder.
So now the Ferguson Freedom Fighters need your help. They need a car so that they can get from city council hearings to action planning meetings, from press conferences to being able to talk with folks on the street every day. While Kim and I were there, we were able to drive them around from spot to spot, and now they're asking for help in getting a car.
As many of you all have probably heard, the organizers and residents in Ferguson are mobilizing toward a big weekend of action in mid-October, and they're calling it the Ferguson October. And while that's happening, we really want to make sure that they have the critical tools that they need in order to continue to mobilize and build resistance in their communities. And so if you've been looking for a way to help out and to support the work that's been happening in Ferguson, this is a way to do it. We really want to make sure that the Ferguson Freedom Fighters have a car, and we really need you, and they need you to donate today to the fund to get them a car. And if you can, we'd really love for you to let your friends and community members and family members know as well to donate. Thank you so much for your support.
Awesome. Yay!
We'll get it to end there. But
it's totally clear.
Yeah.
That was the time I think we got everything in. What do you think?
Totally. I'm like, in my mind, I was like, I didn't feel quite as crisp at the end there. I kind of like meandered around a little bit, but I feel good that everything was in there, and it's probably just feeling bigger in my brain than it will come up on the screen.
Okay. Well, so I'm going to click stop recording. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.